All right, hello everybody. Long time no see. Hope to see you guys soon. I really hate if this would go on the rest of the school year, but we'll see how it goes. So today we're going to be taking some notes, and I wanted to give a rundown of our week. Monday we will be taking notes. Tuesday we have questions over those notes. Wednesday, I will be having a Google Meet to explain a paper that we will be writing Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday, we'll have a quiz. Everything we're doing this week and forward is new information. So we're going to start on evolution and adaptations. Before we get into it, I just wanted to quickly go over respectful emails. So I've gotten a few emails from you guys that are not quite as respectful as I'd hoped. You got to remember there's like a language barrier when we have internet conversations. So please remember to use appropriate ways to address me. So don't call me dude. I'm still Miss Foster. If you do have a legitimate concern, I'm here to listen. I'm not trying to make your life harder, but we are going to work. This is not a time to just sit on our butts and try to answer 10 multiple choice questions and move on. We are going to learn. We are going to work. So just go ahead and get on with it. I will try to respond quickly, but I got the kids, so it may take me just a couple of minutes to get to you. You can also reach me quicker through my remind text at Foster Mrs. Okay, so you would just send at Foster Mrs. to 81010. Okay? Alright, so let's get into today. Like I said, we are beginning on evolution, so I want you to think about this. What differences do you notice in these shells, and why are there differences? Okay, think about the individual shells, and then think about shells that we can group together. We can put all the yellows together and all the oranges in different patterns. All right, natural selection. Today what we're going to begin with is these slides, and you're going to take notes on a sheet of paper. You can type them up if you want, whatever is easier. Anything that is in a gray box you need to write. Okay, so you'll see here in a second what you need to write. Tomorrow we're going to answer a few questions over what we've talked about. Wednesday and Thursday we'll be writing. Friday you will be taking an open notes quiz. So you do need to keep these notes. You can use them. Today you will watch this PowerPoint and write the following. So if it's in a gray box, you're going to write it down. We are going to watch a 1-minute video and you need to summarize it. Then you are going to submit a picture onto my Google Classroom. You will attach the picture to this assignment. All right, so right here, gray box, that's what you're writing. Adaptations, these are heritable genetic changes within a population. That means you inherit it from your parent. Over long periods of time, these adaptations can lead to evolution. So evolution is not something that happens quickly. It is a bunch of stuff that piles up over time. For instance, bacteria genes encourage genetic change so they can survive antibiotic treatments. So we've talked about how viruses are non-living, which is absolutely true, but they still have DNA inside them. And so changes that they may go through, we could call that evolving. Because that DNA is evolving, it is changing over time. That is all evolution means, is change over time. I'm not saying humans come from monkeys. Some scientists have different types of evidence that they believe that is true. That is not what I am saying. What I am saying is that there are some obvious changes that happen over time. So another example, skin color is a genetic change in response to solar radiation and vitamin D production. We all know Mrs. Foster does not have a whole lot of vitamin D production. I am very pale, and my baby girl Luna, oh, she is almost transparent. She is so pale. I have already been sunburnt this year. It happens. My son, who is adopted, has very beautiful bronze skin, and that is because of his genetics. All right, gray boxes, write it. There are types of selection. We have artificial selection and natural selection. Artificial selection means the breeding of organisms by humans so that the desired traits are produced in future generations. So we do that with plants and vegetables a lot. All of these plants, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, kale, kohlrabi? Anyways, they all come from wild mustard seed. We've altered that in a scientific lab setting in order to make all these things. I don't know why we would do that. These are disgusting things. I do not like any of these things. I've never had that, but I only assume I can't like it because of all this. Kale is so bland. But we have genetically altered them to be healthier. Natural selection. This is the process where organisms better adapted to their environment, they'll survive better. So if we look at these birds, they have selected the green beetles over the brown ones because the green ones stand out against the dirt. So those brown beetles, those have selected naturally to survive. Okay, so if birds eat more green beetles than those brown, then there will be more of the brown beetles to breed, and soon there will be a whole lot more brown beetles than green. All right, Charles Darwin. I'm going to read this to you, and really what I want you to know about Charles Darwin is really these first 2 points, okay? I know it's not in gray, but bear with me. These first 2 points. Charles Darwin. He was the first to explain evolution by natural selection, and people saw evolution, but not why it happened. Okay? So Charles Darwin's a great example of a scientist who he believed in God. And so I don't want you to come into this with a bad attitude that this might be against your faith, when that's not really what we're going for here. All we're talking about are changes over time, and we see that all the time, and Charles Darwin saw this, okay? He said it was nature. It just happened. He researched for many years, and he found many examples. For example, here we have the birds, the finches, and over time, we started with this one finch, and it had different children. Over time, they each had different beaks. But this one, it was able to get insects better. Whereas the middle one, woodpecker, was able to get a different type of insect. And so because of these different changes, they would have different foods, and they would survive because they weren't competing for food. And so we had more and more birds produce. And the same goes with these Galapagos giant tortoises. They are huge. If you've never seen one at the zoo, you should. I love turtles. I think they're adorable. And tortoises are just so cute. I would love to have a giant one. Different neck lengths have adapted to help reach food better. So they would have longer necks, which helps them get food. Darwin's finches is a big deal. And if we get back to school this year, I cannot wait because there's this fun little project where we get to mimic Darwin's finches. And so we get to just play with spoons and chopsticks and stuff as long as you guys don't throw things around. It'd be so fun. So Darwin's finches, they have different types of beaks and they are selected. So a mutation occurred to initially make this happen. We talked all about mutations last semester. But this mutation occurred that initially made the beak change, and the bird was like, well, this is the beak I have. I'm going to use it to the best of my ability. And so it turned out to be a good thing that it had this change. Okay, and so we have these favorable mutations, is what we call them, favorable mutations, because it was a mutation that just randomly occurred, but it turned out to be for the best. All right, so we have different steps of evolution, and this is step 1, well, natural selection more so. Step 1, let's look at these steps. Here's the population of rock pocket mice, and they have 2 different colors, okay? They can live on a light colored surface or a dark colored surface. The mice can either be tan or dark gray. So you can see that populations have variation. These are the same species of mice, we just have 2 different colors, okay? 2 different color of mice. And this is naturally occurring. Just like I have blonde hair, my son has dark brown. naturally occurring variations within a population. We're going to get all into these mice later next week. They're super cool, but you'll notice you can see the mice really well on this bottom picture based on the background that they are on, but up here they blend in a little better. How is that going to help them? All right, so I want you to look outside and describe a situation in which you see a natural variation in a population. So you're going to write this box down. You're going to pause the video and write down at least one sentence that describes something you see outside that maybe you see two of, but they don't look exactly the same, just like those pocket rock mice. Okay, so pause for a moment and look at that. All right, even looking at a type of tree, you can see that trees are not exactly alike. I have two trees in my front yard that are the same type of tree, but one, believe it or not, is male and the other is female, and I can tell by the reproductive leaves. Step 2. Some variations are desirable. Write this. Gray box. What is the best depends on environment, and variations are heritable. That means that you get it genetically. So environments change. If these leaves became darker for some reason, then bugs with a lighter color will be easily seen and selected against. Okay, I want you to think about those words. Selected against. We're going to see that again tomorrow. The one that is selected against is this, the dark colored one, because it is the one that's going to get eaten. And that's not good for it. Against. It is against it. Again, think about a population. Describe the traits you think are desirable. For example, is a white cat or a black cat going to be easier to see at night? So, just thinking about the sentence you just wrote. Based on those two that you observed, if you observed two trees that were the same but one is bigger than the other, I want you to tell which one is it better to be? Is it better to be a big tree or better to be a small tree? Okay. Step 3. More offspring, young, are produced than can survive. Okay. More children that are produced than can survive. So that means that maybe a wolf has a litter of 4 pups, but only 2 of them survive the winter. Okay, so we want to have more offspring than can survive to make sure we have enough offspring. If that wolf only had 2 pups and 2 died, then it wouldn't have any left after the winter. So you want to have more offspring rather than less. So competition for limited resources means that not all of them will survive. Competition examples would be mates, food, water, shelter, hiding, fighting, etc. Okay? Anything like that will cause harm to one of the offspring. Step 4. Those that survive have favorable traits. So in this example, we have the mice are eaten by the fox. The surviving mice get to reproduce. Well, which mice are eaten by the fox? It's the ones the fox can easily see. The white mice can be seen against the black rock. So the black mice have the favorable trait because they survive. More black mice survive than white mice. And so those black mice get to survive and they reproduce together and they make even more black mice. Step 5. Over time, a population changes. So this is what the theory of evolution by natural selection is talking about. And a change over a long period of time, not even necessarily within one lifespan. So it's going to be over several generations. Step 1 of step 5, overproduction. Every species tends to produce more individuals than can survive to maturity. You want to have a whole lot more because you know some of them are going to die. The individuals of a population have many characteristics that differ. And that's what variation means. We just have a lot of characteristics. 3. Selection. Some individuals survive longer, and reproduce more than others. So when something is selected, it's basically selected to survive. Something about it makes nature select it. And 4, adaptation. The traits of those individuals that survive and reproduce will become more common in a population. I want you to pause the video and I want you to write the definition of all 4 of these things. This is important, okay? Adaptation. The traits of those individuals that survive and those individuals reproduce become more common in a population. So we see here the brown ones survived, so now we have more brown ones because the white ones are dying off. All right, again, I know it's a lot of writing, but that's our work for today. Pause, write this whole slide, okay? Draw if you can, but this is important. What is natural selection? All right, just to review, natural selection is the mechanism of evolution. It ensures that only the traits that help a species to survive and reproduce get passed along to future generations. So I know you've heard survival of the fittest before, and that just means the survival of the fittest is a competition between 2 individual organisms that are of the same species. So is the blue or is the green going to win? Who is going to be the fittest? Fit as in strong, going to a gym, you get fit. And so which one's going to survive? Which one's going to be the strongest? Natural selection. Natural selection is survival of the fittest on a larger scale, and it involves the entire population. Okay, so we're looking at, as a whole, who's going to do better. And then evolution is the consequence of natural selection over a very long period of time. Now, it says thousands of years, which is true, but we can even see this among, fruit flies because they have a short life expectancy. They only live a day or two. So we can see that over many generations throughout a year if we are in a lab. So survival of the fittest between 2 organisms, natural selection among a population over time, maybe a generation or 2. Evolution is over many, many generations. All right, we've only got 2 more slides. Don't worry. We're almost done. All right, we're going to watch this YouTube video, and it is going to, I want you to explain what happened in this, okay? A few key points. It is a 1-minute video, and let's get started.
Organisms vary. They look different. Don't believe me? Go outside, look around. Still don't believe me? Grab a ruler, measure some leaves. They'll be different. This is a rabbit. Some rabbits are slightly darker than others. Some are slightly lighter. Some of the variation we see gets passed down to offspring. Offspring tend to look like their parents. More offspring are born than can be supported by the environment. In other words, things die. Some things get eaten by predators. Some get sick and die. Some just get unlucky and get hit by cars. Some of the variation we see is responsible for determining who lives and reproduces and who dies. Those organisms that are well adapted to their environment tend to live and have lots of babies. Those that are poorly adapted to their environment tend to die. These rabbits live on a white background. Dark-colored rabbits are easier to see, so they tend to get eaten by predators. Light-colored rabbits are harder to see, so they tend to live and reproduce. Over time, some individuals survive and reproduce better than other individuals because of certain characteristics. In this example, coat color. These characteristics get passed down to their offspring, who then survive and reproduce better than other individuals, and the population can end up looking quite a bit different than what it did in the past. This is evolution by natural selection.
All right. Short and sweet. So, think about it. Make up an explanation about how natural selection might work in these shells. Okay? Make it up from your brain. Why do you think they're different? What advantage could that have? 2 sentences at the end of your notes. You are going to take a picture of your notes, add them to this assignment, and I will give you the points for it. If I cannot read your handwriting, then I'm not giving you the points for it. So if you have any questions, again, remind is the best way. I would love for you to send me a remind text. All right, guys, it's almost 20 minutes of a video. I know that's a long video, but we do 40 minutes of work each class. If you took a pause and wrote everything down, then you've done everything for today. Upload your picture now. Have a great day, guys. I really do miss you. I hope you are well.